Breaking. The announcement came during Tuesday's cabinet meeting when President Trump declared imminent land strikes against Venezuela and suggested military action could expand to any country making drugs for America. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sat stone-faced, declining to provide operational details. Secretary of State Marco Rubio shifted uncomfortably when asked about congressional authorization. And within 3 hours, Zohran Mamdani issued a statement that sent shockwaves through the Pentagon. New York City will not provide logistical support, National Guard cooperation, or port access for military operations not explicitly authorized by Congress. It's the first time in modern American history that a major city has preemptively refused to support presidential military action. And 17 Democratic governors immediately signaled they're considering identical positions. Trump's Venezuela obsession has been escalating for months after a controversial September strike on alleged drug boats killed 14 people, including civilians. International outcry intensified. Human rights organizations called it a potential war crime. Allied nations questioned American judgment, and Trump, rather than de-escalating, doubled down. He deployed carrier strike groups to the Caribbean, positioned 20,000 troops in Colombia, and imposed crushing economic sanctions designed to starve the Maduro regime into collapse. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro responded by calling it Yankee imperialism and vowing eternal resistance. The situation has become a powder keg, with Trump holding the match. Congressional reaction has been swift and bipartisan. Representative Greg Meeks introduced a war powers resolution Tuesday afternoon prohibiting hostilities within or against Venezuela without explicit congressional approval. The resolution has 63 co-sponsors, including 12 Republicans. That's extraordinary. Trump's own party is publicly constraining his military authority because they don't trust his judgment. Senator Rand Paul, often a Trump ally on foreign policy, called the Venezuela escalation unconstitutional adventurism that will cost American lives for no strategic benefit. When libertarian Republicans and progressive Democrats align against presidential war powers, you're witnessing rare constitutional unity. But the most devastating blow came from international allies. Pope Leo XIV issued an urgent statement calling for dialogue and warning that military intervention would create humanitarian catastrophe and regional instability. Canada's Prime Minister announced Ottawa will not support any military action lacking UN Security Council authorization. The European Union's foreign policy chief described Trump's threats as reckless endangerment of hemispheric peace. America's closest allies are publicly opposing US military policy before operations even begin. That's not criticism. That's diplomatic isolation, and it validates Mamdani's resistance as internationally supported rather than fringe opposition. Mamdani's strategic calculation is brilliant. By framing his position as defending constitutional war powers rather than opposing Trump personally, he's made it impossible for Republicans to attack him without attacking congressional authority. Every Republican who supports Mamdani's position strengthens legislative checks on executive power. Every Republican who opposes it admits Trump should have unlimited war authority without congressional approval. There's no politically safe response. Mamdani has turned Trump's Venezuela obsession into a constitutional crisis, where defending Trump means abandoning constitutional principles. And Republican senators facing 2026 re-election in swing states understand that voters don't want another endless war started by presidential decree. Late Tuesday evening, leaked Pentagon assessments revealed military planners believe a Venezuela ground invasion would require 100,000 troops, cost $500 billion over 3 years, and produce casualty estimates comparable to Iraq. Those aren't activist projections. Those are Defense Department war games, and they were presented to Trump 3 times in classified briefings. He ignored them. Defense Secretary Hegseth reportedly warned Trump that launching major military operations without congressional authorization could trigger his impeachment. Trump's response, according to 2 sources present, they won't dare. That's not strategic confidence. That's authoritarian delusion, and his own military leadership knows it. Congressional Democrats are preparing maximum resistance. House Armed Services Committee announced emergency hearings on presidential war powers beginning Thursday. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer secured commitments from 51 senators to vote for the War Powers Resolution if Trump orders attacks before congressional approval. That's enough to pass the Senate. And if the House follows, which appears likely given bipartisan support, Trump would face the humiliation of Congress, formally prohibiting his military operation. He could veto the resolution, but that requires him to publicly defend unlimited presidential war authority, a position even many Republicans find indefensible. State-level resistance is expanding faster than anyone anticipated. By Wednesday morning, governors from California, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, Washington, Oregon, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, New Mexico, Colorado, and Hawaii had either issued statements or signaled privately they would not support unauthorized military action. That's 17 states controlling 40% of America's GDP refusing to cooperate with presidential war plans. It's unprecedented. And it creates massive logistical problems for Pentagon planners who rely on state National Guard units, port facilities, and transportation infrastructure for force deployment. International pressure intensified Wednesday afternoon when the Organization of American States held an emergency session. 23 member nations voted to condemn threats of unilateral military intervention and called for diplomatic resolution. The United States voted against the resolution. It passed anyway with overwhelming support. America's hemispheric partners are formally rejecting Trump's Venezuela policy. That diplomatic isolation undermines any post-conflict legitimacy. Even if Trump launches attacks and topples Maduro, no regional government will recognize a US-installed replacement. The operation would be strategically futile, even if militarily successful. Inside the White House, advisors are reportedly divided between those urging immediate attack to demonstrate strength and those warning it would be politically catastrophic before 2026 midterms. Trump is caught between his authoritarian instincts demanding action and political reality, showing that action would trigger congressional revolt, state resistance, international condemnation, and electoral disaster. Mamdani hasn't just opposed Trump's Venezuela war, he's made it politically impossible. And Trump, watching his war plans collapse under constitutional and political pressure, is facing something he's never successfully navigated: limits. Thursday morning will bring the House Armed Services hearing. Multiple four-star generals are scheduled to testify. If any publicly question the wisdom or legality of Trump's Venezuela plans, his war authority collapses completely. The military, Congress, state governments, and international allies will have formed a unified constitutional coalition against presidential overreach. And Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect from New York, will have led it.